Yemami Akua Donkor Efrim. Ofrimu 3 days ni ofrim, that is Tuesday. What is the possible consequences of Yemami Akua Donkor Efrim no on the 2024 elections? What is the consequences of Yemami Akua Donkor Efrim no on a political party like the NDC? Yemami Akua Donkor wo na wo ne benya susonso bi wo NDC so ana. Yemami Akua Donkor wo na wo ne benya susonso bi wo ye election aye koto on the 7th of December. It will show December 7 days. November 30, 37. We have just about 37 days to the elections. With the death of Mami Akua Donkor, Ebenyam Kusansubu was one. And sad discussion on a very interesting propositions are eba. Man for trauma dream on na nyame no be channel. And then was a very interesting. From Eugene say to me channel, your friend the critical analyst channel. Ye bogana and come, ye di Ghana and come, subscribe, mommy. Now click the notification bell. Me the video be ato so abehu na what me ashebi. Na wa shama wa phone so no met me den ashebi. Oko Facebook a from Eugene say to two ho. TikTok Eugene say to the analyst. Twitter and so me wo ho no. Timon subscribe ne amon komo yen koso. Enra na be say me video ba na me possible legal explanations. Now so far one of the best legal explanations amenya no I am from Brand TV. I know you're a journalist. On the BBC, Ejuma, on the multimedia, Ejuma, and a lawyer. Friend and lawyer, Samet Dako. Now, on the OSP, Office of Special Prosecutor, and a Ejuma, a private legal practitioner, former journalist, and to share or come from a lot of diverse background or a lecturer. So, our chembra, it was over Yesuku Pum, or Ghana. Now, one of the possible scenarios are Airbana say, Yamamia will free mono. Will it have any consequences on the elections? Question man for Brebusa no. 1. Wednesday, Anna is in this statement by say there's no a clear law in the CI 127 Ghana ya de Twaba. Ghana Marani ya de Twaba, a friend constitutional instrument 127, if I'm not mistaken, 127. Ebio the 1992 constitution, there's not that clear guidelines. Say obi free mu baby ade abato yakodu ye na nhihye yakodu ya. There's no clear provision. Ye hunye yenye. Ntomo kotu article 54 say bibi says here at least provisional law ka committee the adwuma na say ma party ni 10 days no mudi nipa foforo ba edu kan 10 days from the 29th of October na so wo kan 29th na ka ho na say by 7th of November na say time na ka na watch ba ko pe na yekoto aba such a crucial election say ma Yemami Akua Donkor Ghana Freedom Party the candidate foforo eden eba and the big say now 1 month they are not they tom the kind of for baff in here print ballot papers in na me ballot printing and so no and yasem ketwa ese security for ho ese party agent ho any ade obi ateki serial number na any because all yas royal obi anyi obi ani te so mo yes process ni nyina ente ye very obroni beka hectic tax eye dwuma esopa enya dwuma edafom ebi da ho ye print papers no mo tro serial numbers nya de se ni obi a dwuma na fine no koto abo no anka se yisi abo ne kro no. Okay. Now, one of the possible scenarios, and I'm meeting interview, buy and I say, I'm on for say, Sasadia, Yemami Akua Donkor picture was because he see crash statement or the boss say, no more ya print at the enemy. It's Yemami picture no also. No mum nipona parts in the nebano on campaign, but yes, still Yemami picture and also because inexplicably, I'm on for baby and say, oh, a party no crown heading or representative called the number 3 position. And yet, Akua Donkor dia number 1 and Yabamia dia number 8 and Yamahama dia a party minimum and a young which is the MPP, the GFP, the Ghana Freedom Party, or the NDC. Lawyer and say, and yet for sir, see a job picture no was this is the consequence.
The party logo, but we know that is the running mate who's being voted for because once you tamper with, because I feel like the problem will be. Once the thing comes out of the printing machine, anything you do to it could compromise it. Because if there's even a dot somewhere, they could call it as a sport ballot, right? So maybe...
I agree with you. I agree with your scenario as well. But I'm saying that these are all scenarios. And the EC may want to begin engagement with the political parties, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. When we reach an agreement, then it no longer becomes unlawful. It becomes unlawful when some people don't agree and they are insisting that this should be done and that should be done. But that's why I said that with these scenarios, it always depends on the EC reaching an agreement with the political parties. So if scenario one, what you said is also true. If scenario one, instead of crossing, they decide to leave it like that, but they do know that the vice presidential candidate will now be campaigning that I am the presidential candidate and it's the same party, that could work. The second scenario could be where they elect totally new person, and then he also gets a vice presidential candidate. We could maintain the same, of course, we can maintain the party logo remains, and then the deceased presidential candidate can also remain, and the person will also campaign. But where the party insists that we are not going to field any candidates,
that's where it becomes complicated.
Oh, you know, and was say, Ebi say, Sasana Tia dia. Party na yamma Queen said 10 days, no. Among funny buffo from Ran, so among funny buffo from ma. A whole problem can see be or hopa and ra. Meeting on a metias ye. Sagana Freedom Party say, oh, young for be about to one cry, my mere one or finance BBR, yen says from yet before be ma. This is the consequence.
But where the party insists that we are not going to field any candidates,
that's where it becomes complicated. So if the party says we are unable to pick a new candidate in 10 days, and we are unwilling or unable to use the running mate, this is where it becomes very murky, right?
Yes, this is where it becomes murky, because then what it means is that we are no longer, I'm using the current scenario, we no longer have 13 presidential candidates and running mates. We now have 12. Now, if we have 12, what will happen is that we can also decide another 2 scenarios, which is that we can maintain the status quo and say that we are not going to touch that of number 3 because they are not in a contest. Again, the parties could agree that the EC could cancel number 3 with whatever ink. It's just now you said that you don't agree with the ink, but I'm saying that anytime people agree to do something, then that thing does not become illegal anymore. That is if somebody, unless someone contests it. But if they agree, they could cancel it. That's scenario 1, so that everything remains intact. But if they don't agree and they say that no, we don't agree because we don't want any additional pen or ink on the ballot paper, so let's print a fresh ballot paper without the number 3 candidate in it because they no longer are part of the elections. Then that is where the issue arises. And the issue arising will mean that now we have 12 presidential candidates. And for me, my considered opinion is that then there has to be fresh balloting because
into Tiena or say some no party no Akua Donkor party for be a ma. It means that say any 13 presidential candidate. I want NDC bemuno. It means that there may be possible ways say yam push among kosoro. Ana say yanya reballoting. Didn't say yanya reballoting. Ochire mutie.
Let's print a fresh ballot paper without the number 3 candidate in it because they no longer are part of the elections. Then that is where the issue arises. And the issue arising will mean that now we have 12 presidential candidates. And for me, my considered opinion is that then there has to be fresh balloting because then we would have cancelled one. The reason why there has to be fresh balloting has to do with what we call fairness. The fairness in the sense that everybody has had the chance to campaign on their numbers. So number 1 has campaigned, number 8 has campaigned, number 13 has campaigned. Now, if you decide that, okay, I'm going to let number 1 remain constant, but I'm going to push those down to fill up the vacuum, then what it means is that you will be disadvantaging, the rest will be disadvantaged because their numbers now changes. And that will, they are the ones who need to now change all their campaigns in terms of paraphernalia and messages and everything. And that would be unfair. So should anybody take support, there's a likelihood that that person may get a good argument to make in court. So in that scenario, then we need to do a fresh balloting so that no one has an advantage. So if the last scenario happens, the Electoral Commission must necessarily hold fresh balloting to determine fresh position, but that would be so costly to the state. One, we are printing fresh ballot papers, and two, the candidates will have to find money to do fresh campaigns.
Right. So Sammy, in a sense, you are saying common sense must prevail over common law in some of these issues. So let the common sense thing happen so we save money and save time.
Instead of using common sense, I would say public interest.
Wonderful.
Because remember, whatever money the EC is spending is not someone's money. It is you and I, our taxes that are being given to spend. So as a country, do we want to spend so much money to print everything afresh? If people say that for peace to reign, democracy is expensive, so let's go for it, that is also a good thing.
All right.
But if people say that let's try and preserve money because we are in hard times and judge all with the parties and come up with a good way forward, that's also a good one. My suggestion is that we should go for the one that is in the public interest. If the public interest is that the parties are so at each other's neck that they cannot agree, then we should do an entirely new balloting, an entirely new printing.
All right.
It's there's a reballoting, two possible scenarios. Either say you be pianco for na kosoro, omo below 3 no, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You be push you money 13, you be push you money akosoro. Ana say you reballoting, or say ono de na dwimu no. Ki enya reballoting because that will be fair. Because obiya a campaign in the number, a brand and the cars, a t-shirt and ade. So because have been pushing kosora, you are disadvantaging on me pushing. It's kenes and into the amfra 1 to 13 and I 1 to 12 say you know. That is when the party says ye will be a manenko. It's a very, very interesting. Now lastly, no, what's no kind of say public interest and I say yegman. Public interest because I can't easy go bring in actually no. I am in Nurse can the say Jumano. It's minia, the number some new which in your dream also a possible scenario be a share comment session no. Ebi a platform business some chess argument. Me shama nampeni fuate. Very, very interesting dynamic I ever. Every mutual say to send the be American. Mr. Mona Modi do say to subscribe the channel on the mommy. Notification bell no bosso. May the video be at us one. Open your notification with me. Have a good day. Namisha no count. Bye.